everybody loves a story about sex and scandals, and this is sort of like an exploration of that. Hey, my name is the Reverend Grebo. I'm an ordained minister of the Universal Life Church. I'm also a Dudist priest. I am a Smut scholar, and I am doing the Mucky Melbourne walking tour for this year's Melbourne Fringe Festival in 2015. What else do you want? There's not really much required of you to be a reverend in these two churches. The first one was the Universal Life Church, and that was purely just, I was overseas, found out you could get ordained online, so I did it. The Church of the Dude, I was ordained in 2008. That was just because I found it and thought, yeah, that's cool. And that's more like the Taoism thing of just going with the flow. Well, I've lived in Melbourne all my life. I've been working in my current job in a comic shop for 6-7 years now. But before that, I worked on and off in porno shops probably for like 10 years. And that's where the idea for finding out about the dirty history of Melbourne came from. This piece of shit here covers up an important feminist landmark. This location is the location of the first women's public toilet in Melbourne. But of course men fucked it up because there was reports that women were too modest to use this toilet because there was men loitering around nearby watching them go into the facilities. This plaque said this was gifted to the city in 1995. In the 90s, Russell Street was heroin central. You could score heroin down any alleyway or video game parlour, and I can imagine why they would want to fill this in. Being right in the central area, they probably had more ODs than they could deal with. The older I got, the more I want to know about what's gone on in the past. When I was in my 20s, I didn't give a shit. But now it's like, wow, I didn't know that about that. I want to find out about it. It's probably because as you get older, you notice stuff changing and you want to find out what happened before that. So I started doing this blog, and I started posting on my Facebook about the blog, and then people said, oh, you should do a walking tour. So I did a couple with mainly friends on Facebook, and then one of them suggested doing it for the Fringe Festival. So I talked to the people at Fringe, and they went, yep, sounds like a great idea. The Mucky Melbourne walking tour is an exploration of the less talked about side of Melbourne. Yeah, it's an exploration in, the dirty stuff that your parents and your grandparents got up to, and your great-grandparents. People pretend, your grandfather didn't get up to dirty stuff, and that's the biggest load of shit. There's the little shop in Flinders Street, which is the old Liberator bookshop, and that's almost been there for 100 years. They used to sell newspapers, but they'd have like the newspapers, then they'd have the soft porn next to that, and then the hardcore next to that. So you'd end up getting the guys coming up and getting a newspaper. They quickly duck in, get the newspaper, and then slip the magazine in. There was no toilet in this shop. This is like a weird little fact, that if the guy working in there needed to use the toilet, he'd go across the road to the car park, or there was a bucket and a mop in the shop. He would use the bucket and then walk out with the mop and the bucket and just empty it into the gutter. Robert Doyle, the mayor, doesn't like it because it's an eyesore. It's like, well, fix it up then. It's been there for 100 years, it should stay, it's got a history. I think that should get like a preservation order from the government so no one rips the guts out of it, like they do with all the other buildings. This used to be a Club X, but no more. They're all slowly disappearing from the city. The future plans for Reverend Grebo is to increase my notoriety and become become known as the Smut Scholar of Melbourne.